Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Wicked Ones role-playing game. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, please check out the playlist in the description below. In this part we are going to talk about the dark arts, everything sorcerous and mysterious of this role-playing game. Some Wicked Ones are drawn to the power found within magic and science. They learn to cast spells tinged with darkness or craft insane contraptions. Others spend their time mixing concussions, noxious alchemicals with bizarre effects, or engaging in complex rituals to taste the most powerful magic. These are the dark arts, whose power only a monster would dare risk trying to harness. The laws of monster science cover the creation of mundane items, edges, concussions, and contraptions. They are rated from Tier 1 to Tier 3, based on how dangerous and complex they are. Tier 1 contains creations that are simple and safe to make. Tier 2 contains creations that are complex and risky to make. And Tier 3 is all about creations that are convoluted and dangerous to make. The laws of spell magic cover the casting of spells and creation of potions. They are rated from Tier 1 to Tier 3, like the laws of monster science, based on how powerful the effects are compared to what a normal action can accomplish. Tier 1 has to do with effects replacing a normal action. Tier 2 is about effects replacing a team effort or a long-time solo effort. And Tier 3 is about effects replacing a long-time team effort. The laws of ritual magic cover the incantations of rituals and creation of magic items. You're limited in what effects you can achieve by their impact on the fiction. At this level of magic, the more impactful it is, the more likely forces are to move against you to stop it. Tier 1 concerns effects with a minor impact on the story. Tier 2 is about effects with a moderate impact on the story. And Tier 3 is all about effects with a major impact on the story. Magic and science can often achieve similar effects, but the biggest difference is in their limitations. Magic allows you to produce any effect unbound by the laws of reality, but within a narrowly focused path. Science in this game is limited only by your ability to explain it in a fantasy science sort of way. Science focuses more on spending time and resources crafting, whereas magic can create effects on the fly within scenes by casting spells. Now let's talk about volatility. By their very nature, the dark arts are dangerous. This is a risk monsters are willing to take in exchange for power. This manifests in things created with magic or science sometimes becoming volatile. Magic items, concussions, and potions can all be volatile unless perfectly crafted. Contraptions are volatile by their very nature. When something has the volatile property, it comes with some drawback when using or even just carrying it. Volatile tends to scale with tier, with the most powerful items having the greatest level of volatility. It's also important that the volatility is fun in play. Don't make an item volatile in such a way that it will never be used. That defeats the entire purpose. Volatile is almost always like a dark bargain in this way. Not quite bad enough to keep you from using the item, but definitely evoking a tinge of regret. Now, when it comes to the laws of monster science, the laws of reality are made to be bent and twisted. A task many monsters find quite appealing. They put their brains to work, coming up with clever ways to achieve the most they can within the boundaries of reality. Items and edges cover any simple, mundane, or non-magical items with useful applications as well as any improvements to those items. Concussions are combinations of reagents distilled into powerful elixirs. Contraptions are insane inventions that allow you to perform something otherwise impossible. To craft something with science, you must explain the monster science behind what you are crafting or how you're crafting it. Next, we have information on concussions. They are single-use alchemicals thrown together in mad science laboratories, distilling and mixing reagents into powders, poultices, poisons, oils, and bombs. Herbal, plant, or fungal creations are also considered to be alchemical in nature. Concussions are brewed by spending a downtime action. You make 2 doses with a single downtime action, and it is always a tier 1 project, regardless of the tier of the concussion. If you roll a mixed result on this downtime action, the concussion becomes volatile. Concussions are made using alchemical reagents, purified and distilled elements of the natural world. These tend to be things like minerals, herbs, or fungi. So you could perhaps create a stink bomb, filling an area with a horrible smell that causes retching, but has a leaky container. Maybe you create fire oil. It catches fire when hit with a spark, but takes a few tries before it lights. Maybe you create heartstop. It makes you appear completely dead, but you wake up with shock to guts. You have many examples for your different creations, divided by tiers, of course. Then we have contraptions. Monster science can push the limits of what's considered possible in a fantasy world. Hot air balloons, rocket boots, portable catapults, you name it. These are called contraptions, and with them, you can do almost anything you can imagine. Whether it's safe or not, though, is another matter entirely. As a simple guideline, you must consider that the technology level in a dungeon is shoddy steampunk. That is, you can't make anything you want. A monster isn't going to whip up a computer. An airplane is probably impossible, but a dirigible might be doable. Incredibly complex creations are usually the culmination of several different contraptions. For this purpose, you have a table of example contraptions divided by tiers. Maybe you create a gas mask, ignoring the effects of gases, but you can barely see while wearing it. Maybe you create a high-pitched whistle. It can only be heard by beasts, dogs and the like, but it gives you a headache. Maybe you create a chainsaw, tearing through wood and flesh like butter, but merely wielding it is highly dangerous. You can even create flamethrowers, catapults, clockwork servants, many other things. Then we have information on the laws of spell magic. Spell magic is a chase after power, pushing you down dark paths in pursuit of something far greater than could ever be achieved on your own. You might be grabbing the power for yourself or surrendering yourself to a more dominant, greater being, in hope of gaining just a small portion of their eternal power in return. Monsters can cast spell magic from 3 different magical disciplines, each with its own magic paths. You have sorcery, drawing power from strange arcane forces. Its paths are enchantment, evocation, force mastery, illusion, necromancy, and pyromancy. We also have witchcraft, drawing power from spirits and nature. Its paths are blood reading, soothsaying, spirit calling, storm strike, and wild heart. There's also channeling, drawing power from the worship of evil deities. Its paths are determined by the domains of the deity you serve. As long as you have a magic focus, any wicked one can invoke magic. However, you can only cast tier 1 spells without the appropriate calling core ability. And what is a magic focus? Items like crystal balls, strange powders, crooked wands, spirit masks, or ancient tomes scrawled in blood that you use to wield magic. Each magic focus can only cast spells of a single magic path. They are usually related in some way to their path, though the exact choice of item is up to you. When you invoke magic, you cast spells to create magical effects that fall within the scope of the magical path you have chosen. The magical path acts as a limitation on what you can accomplish. These magical effects are divided by tiers as well. And when it comes to invoking spells, you have a 3-step process. First, the player describes the spell, then the game master sets the spell tier, and then the player rolls or reconsiders. And yes, magic is quite powerful and flexible, but each magic path has some notable limitations. The first limitation is due to the nature of the magic and something you must deal with. You then choose a second limitation on your own, which serves to balance magic against normal actions. If your magic path is very broad and easy to apply to any situation, the limitation should scale that back some. If your magic path is already narrow, a minor fun limitation is more appropriate. And many magic paths may allow you to summon a pack of minions to do your bidding, usually lasting until the end of the current scene. If you summon a minion pack with a tier 0 or tier 1 spell, you're essentially rolling Invoke to accomplish something, but describing it as a short-lived minion being summoned and performing the action for you. You use your Invoke action roll to determine the results. When you cast a tier 2 or tier 3 spell, you can summon a normal minion that will last for a scene. You determine what actions and impulses they have when you summon them. When it comes to other rules, invoking has a few more uses that need clarification. Merely detecting, understanding, and even dispelling magic does not require a magic focus. Detect magic is about looking for signs of magic. Dispel magic is when you remove a magical effect completely. Now, when it comes to resistance, you can use Invoke to make a resistance roll. When you do, describe the spell and how it resists the consequence. The Game Master then sets the tier of the spell, usually tier 1. There's also conferring action ratings. When a spell confers a new action rating on a player character, such as transmuting their body or boosting them with magic, the action rating is equal to the tier of the spell cast. And when it comes to conferring abilities, spells can mimic calling abilities, even core abilities. This requires a tier 3 spell to do so. Next, we have details on potions. Potions are bottled elixirs with potent magical effects. They are usually in liquid form, though it's not unheard of to find these magical essences within a dust or some other form. They are consumed upon use. The tier of a potion is equal to the tier of spell it would take to create the effect normally, and potions are brewed by spending a downtime action. You must state an ingredient or two when brewing a potion. Especially rare ingredients give you a +1 die to the roll to brew a potion. These ingredients are almost always procured within a scene under risky conditions. You have a table of example potions divided by tiers, such as Firefly, which makes your abdomen blink but also attracts bugs. You also have Strength. It makes you as strong as a bear, but you're completely exhausted afterwards. There's also Turn Heart. It causes the drinker to rethink their current goal, but all distrust you while you carry it. There's also Animal Form, which turns you into an animal, but you gain an appropriate dark impulse during it. And these are just some examples when it comes to the potions that you can create. Next, we have information on the laws of ritual magic. Rituals push magic to its limits, allowing you to bring forth truly horrifying magical effects, transcending what is possible with spell magic. You do not need to have spellcasting ability or even invoke to incant a ritual, though without some magical ability, you do need a proper explanation for why you know the ritual. Rituals are incanted with downtime actions, using any action that makes sense within the fiction. A ritual's tier is determined by how large of an impact it will have on the story. There are ritual requirements to carry out these operations. For example, fasting. You're not allowed to eat while preparing this ritual. You take shock to an attribute each time you incant this ritual. There's also ritual cleansing. Your body must be thoroughly cleansed with ointment, blood, or other special materials. There's also trial. You must undergo some trial to prove yourself worthy before the ritual can be completed, such as swimming across a dangerous river, burning down a temple, or finding and killing a wyvern without using any weapons. And these are just some of the ritual requirements that could be quite specific to the sort of operation that you are carrying out. Then we have details on magic items. Given their line of work, dungeon monsters are bound to come across magic items, whether they're hanging off the bodies of dead adventurers, hidden away in a wizard's closet, or being secretly transported in a grain caravan. Magic items can be crafted with a ritual of a tier equal to the item being enchanted. And of course, you have information on the activation of the item, its limited use, and how volatile that item is. You have example magic items such as Bag of Luck. It lets you reach your hand in and pull out a mundane item, but likes to play tricks on you. There's also Immovable Armor. It makes you nigh immovable, but you can't run while wearing it. Or perhaps you create the Cloak of Invisibility. It turns you completely invisible, but no other gear besides the cloak. And there are a lot of other magical items such as the Thundering Mace, the bag of devouring, the endless bottle, or the cube of knowledge. Next we have information on sorcery. You reach out and seize control of primal arcane energies, twisting them to serve your own nefarious purposes. Sorcery is the purview of warlocks, who can learn to cast higher tier spells within this magic discipline. Those who wield sorcery draw their power from a variety of sources. Some tap into the underlying energies that created the world, others harness the remnants of life energy remaining in corpses. This power might even come from within, such as a forbidden mystical heritage or a heart corrupted by dark experience. Now let's talk a bit about the different magical paths. You have enchantment, manipulate weak minds. You delve deep into the minds of others, eliciting emotion and controlling thoughts. You can alter memories, implant the seeds of action, or give explicit commands which you expect to be followed. The weaker the mind, the stronger your magic is. When enchantment spells fail, you might falsely believe it worked. The target may become aware of what you were attempting, or the spell might be reflected back at you. Then we have evocation. Summon hellish fiends. The hells are full of demons, devils, and fiends waiting to be pulled forth from their fiery domain and put to good use. You open portals and pull through whatever servants you need, binding them to do your bidding. When evocation spells fail, the fiend you summoned might take vengeance on you for disturbing them, break free and run amok, or hold a vengeance against you. Then we have force mastery. Move objects at will. There is a force flowing through this world, intertwining all objects. You can sense and manipulate this tension to propel non-living matter as you please. Living matter, on the other hand, defies this force and is beyond your ability. When force mastery spells fail, you might drop whatever you were moving on an ally, break it apart instead of picking it up, or move it way beyond where you intended. And these are just some of the paths of sorcery. And just like sorcery, witchcraft follows different paths. Let's talk about these mysterious ways. We have blood reading, the pulse of life. Bodies are nothing more than the blood coursing through their veins, and you know blood well. You can sense it, read it, control it, and use it to push people past their limits, seal wounds closed, or force its body to do terrible things. When blood reading spells fail, you might invigorate your target, send them into a blood-boiling rage, or harm yourself instead. Then we have soothsaying, the timeless eye. You can cast your sight far and wide, moving your senses forwards and backwards through time. You play with alternative versions of the future and delve into events in the past, looking to unlock valuable secrets. When soothsaying spells fail, you might get bad information. Curse yourself by toying with future timelines, or make the one who you were viewing aware of your presence. Then we have spirit calling, the world beyond. The spirits of the dead linger, waiting to take care of unfinished business. They have their own motivations, but when you talk, they listen. They are a good source of information, but only know what they've seen. When spirit calling spells fail, you might attract unwanted attention from dangerous spirits, scare friendly spirits away, or slip into the spirit realm yourself. And these are just some of the paths of witchcraft. Then we have channeling. You call upon a dark god, demigod, or powerful fiend that, in return for your worship, allows you to wield a small fraction of their power. Channeling is the purview of zealots, who can learn to cast higher level spells within this magic discipline. You have two categories of deities that you can call upon. First we have the Imperial Family, the follies of civilization, with entities such as Gorlag, the Blessed Emperor, god of conquest and tyranny. There's also Melkahar, the Rotting Prince, god of pestilence and decay. Then we have Dalgeth, the Grumbling Malcontent, goddess of cunning and treachery. And these are just some of the members of the Imperial Family. In the other category we have the Wild, the essence of nature, with entities such as Shavas, the unscrupulous destroyer, god of tempests and blights. We have Lavisha, the flesh eater, goddess of slaughter and savagery. We have Talazar, the relentless stalker, god of vengeance and the hunt. Then we have Bahuna, the Howler at Night, goddess of nightmares and twilight. Now let me give you an example of some magical related gameplay. We have this scene called Under the Full Moon. This is what the player characters have been working towards. The ritual of lycanthropy will curse the merchant sun and unleash the terror of a werewolf on the region. All that's left is to bargain with a dire wolf and perform the ritual under the light of the full moon. The game master speaks. Crag, this is kind of your deal. Go ahead and set the scene for us here. Crag, the kobold shaman, speaks.
Cool, so we're in a small glade, deep in the northern woods, illuminated by the full moon. We drag the prisoner out here and drape the wolf pelt over them. I look at the moon and howl as loud as I can. I want to banter here, I guess. I'm calling a dire wolf.
The game master speaks. Let's just make that the engagement roll. Your banter is 1 die, right? The game master rolls 1 die of engagement and gets a mixed result. The game master speaks. Well, you certainly got its attention. You hear a howl in return, piercing the night. It's answering your call. You all look at each other, thinking this might go well. Then you hear another howl, and another, and a few more. They are all around you. It might not be as easy as you thought. Crag speaks.
I motion for the others to just relax and say, let 'em come. We wait a few tense moments until the wolves appear at the tree line.
The game master speaks. You just barely spot a wolf at the glade's edge, waiting. Then you spot another. From behind you, you hear a low, deep growl. You turn to see the dire wolf inching out of the forest towards you. It's noticed the wolf pelt and is moving towards the prisoner, sniffing the air. Crag continues.
I'm going to invoke Wildheart here and speak directly to the dire wolf.
The game master speaks. It could be tier 1 if all you are trying to do is convey a basic concept like friend or run. But negotiating with a wolf isn't something you could normally even do, so anything complex is tier 3. I think we can wrap the attempt to convince them into the invoke roll as well. Also, I'm gonna roll the blowback for this ritual real fast to see if anyone's noticed what you are all up to. I think I'll keep the roll secret for now. The game master rolls 2 dice of blowback and gets a failure. Crag speaks.
Yeah, this is going to be tier 3. I'll take the -2 dice on the roll, but I'm putting a dark heart into it. I'll tell you what I say after the roll.
The game master speaks. Okay, gotcha. It's dire. This is an ancient forest spirit and you're all surrounded. On a failure, I think the wolves attack you for trespassing. On a mixed, the dire wolf accepts your friendship, but it's the human. As an aside, Slem, what's your scan? Slem, the Slissic Shadow, speaks.
It's 3 dice now. I put my dot from Reckless XP into it last session. Hey, can Crag get a dark bargain here? Maybe I'm transfixed on the dire wolf. And whatever you need to know my scan for is instead a 2 dice roll.
The game master continues. Sounds fair to me. Crag? Crag speaks.
Yeah, I'll take that. Here's my roll.
Crag rolls 3 dice, invoke. That is 3 dice minus 2 dice plus 1 die and plus 1 die as well. And he gets a success. Crag speaks.
Yes, alright. I stand in front of the prisoner, between it and the wolf, and begin uttering in wolf speech. It's mostly barks and growls. Great one. We brought a gift, a gesture of friendship. Or if it pleases you, I have a better idea. Help us give it the lichen curse to wreak havoc on the human villagers, and in return, we'll guarantee the northern woods remain yours.
The game master speaks. The dire wolf's on board. You can complete the ritual, but just a second. The game master rolls 2 dice of engagement and gets a critical. The game master speaks. Looks like help is gonna show up a bit too late. The critical means you'll be able to finish the ritual before they arrive. Slem, you look up from the dire wolf to see riders on giant eagles highlighted against the moon. Slem continues.
I exchange glances with Ulrat, gesture with my head at the adventurers incoming, then put a finger to my mouth, telling him to wait.
Crag speaks.
The dire wolf lunges forward, snarling maw directly over the kneeling prisoner. Saliva drips down, covering his head. I howl to the moon, and the wolves join me, completing the ritual. The wolf belt embeds itself into the man's back, a painful process. Then the howling stops, and the wolves leave. The prisoner is shaking as I cut the cords holding him. He looks down at his hands, already beginning to turn, then bolts for the trees. I say, let him go. This'll all be just a bad dream when he wakes.
Ulrat, the orc brute, speaks.
Good deal. Now that's all finished up. I pull my axe. We've got some adventurers to kill. I rage and chuck my axe at an eagle.
And that concludes this part of the review for today. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. As you can see, the magical system in this role-playing game is quite flexible, very malleable. You do have a structure, but you don't have extensive spell lists. It's all about your creativity. You can produce all sorts of effects, but they must make sense with the fiction, with the story, of course. Well, thank you for watching, and thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending DriveThruRPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.